We are back with another disaster film. This week is the 1974 film Earthquake, and it is very similar to The Towering Inferno, except this time it's an earthquake in Los Angeles. Still a cavalcade of stars and the disaster that happens and people trying to survive that disaster with your heroes. This time, the main character is Charlton Heston. But you also have Ava Gardner, George Kennedy, and Lorne Greene in this movie. And with many other stars, as was par for the course for all of these 70s disaster movies, except no O.J. Simpson this time. This movie was directed by Mark Robson, who did the movies Peyton Place. He also did The Champion in 1949. He was an old school director, and this was in the twilight of his career. And this movie was written by George Fox and Mario Puzo. Yes, the godfather Mario Puzo. And this did come out the same year as The Towering Inferno. It was nominated for a few Academy Awards, but not Best Picture like The Towering Inferno was. Its nominations were all in the technical categories. It was the winner for its Oscar nomination for Best Sound, but it was also nominated for Best Cinematography, Best Art Direction, Set Direction, Best Film Editing, and it was given a special Oscar for the Special Achievement Award in Visual Effects, which was not a regular category at this point. And all in all, Earthquake is still a fun movie. Do I like it as much as The Towering Inferno? Not quite, but it's still a fun movie. I mean, you might be familiar with the Earthquake ride at Universal Studios. I think it's part of the Backlot Tour, which shows you some of the special effects that might be involved with a movie like this. It's one of those old school parts of the ride that still survive as well, at least in the Hollywood Universal Studios. Now, when this movie was being filmed, incidentally, there was an earthquake in the location that they were filming. The first day of filming, there was also an earthquake in the location that they were filming on the last day of filming. And of course, this was filmed in the Los Angeles area, and this movie was also scored by John Williams. At the time this movie was made, it set the record for having the most stunt people employed in a movie. I believe there was some 141 stunt people that worked on the movie Earthquake. Ava Gardner, who was in the twilight of her career at this point, took this movie just because she wanted to spend spring in Los Angeles, so good for her. This movie was filmed in what they called sensesurround, which in some places they had to turn this effect off because the sound was so intense that plaster would fall off the old theaters that were showing the movie. And also this was before they really had stereo sound on television to sort of mimic the sensesurround sound. NBC was showing it, so they simulcast the soundtrack on local FM radios so people could tune into that and sort of mimic the sound effect. I wonder how well that worked though. But very much the sensesurround plays into this just what it was meant to be. It was meant to be a sort of event film, just a flick, just for fun. Never supposed to be this serious movie. And Charlton Heston at this point wasn't in his serious movie phase. Knowing from his career in the 1970s, I have highlighted a lot of them on this channel, as well as George Kennedy, a Oscar winner for Cool Hand Luke. After that movie, none of his career was ever serious movies again. He was in a lot of these disaster films in the 70s and then in spoof films after that. But sensesurround sort of had its birth and death in the 70s. It was in the film still Midway in 1976, Roller Coaster in 1977, and Battlestar Galactica in 1978, and then never appeared again as a sound feature in film. So when this movie came out, some of the critics complained about Ava Gardner being too old for Charlton Heston, and they're kind of the same age. I think there's only 9 months difference in their age, and Ava Gardner being only 9 months older than them. Critics were adamant that she was way too old to play his wife. And that goes into Lorne Greene plays her father in the picture, and he's only 7 years older than her. And this movie, along with other disaster movies that came out that same year, was a huge hit at the box office. It was the fourth highest grossing movie of 1974. The Towering Inferno was, of course, the biggest film of 1974. It was made with a relatively small budget of $7 million, and it made $80 million at the box office, which a huge sum, especially for the mid-70s. The earthquake in this movie is supposed to be a 9.9 on the Richter scale, which would just kill everybody if that really happened. It happened along the San Andreas Fault. That's why it's in the Los Angeles area. And the earthquake in the movie lasts 9 minutes long, which further goes, it would just flatten everything. And I know it is a huge disaster of a movie, but I don't know of any way that anyone would survive a earthquake of that long and that magnitude. Most California earthquakes last under a minute. There was supposed to be a sequel to this movie called Earthquake 2, and it was being written by George Fox. It just never came to fruition and never made it out of the development stage and just kind of lingered out there, as happens to a lot of movies. But it is not uncommon when there is such a hit movie, them to try to rush a sequel out, especially nowadays. Charlton Heston actually turned down an offer to play Chief Brody in Jaws so he could star in this movie. Could you imagine Charlton Heston being in Jaws? Would that have ruined Jaws without Roy Scheider playing Chief Brody? It's just wild to me. I cannot picture Charlton Heston in the movie Jaws. It would have made it completely different. So I guess in the end, things work out for us as the viewer. So in the end, if you're looking to have a disaster movie marathon, specifically a 70s disaster movie marathon, Earthquake is one of the movies that you should include. If you just focus on the year 1974, you would have a few movies to watch just from that year, including this and Tower Inferno, and I believe Airport 75 also came out in 74. So have some fun, pop the popcorn, have a soda, get some candy, watch one of these, at least one of these fun disaster movies from the 1970s. It will be a fun time. You won't be disappointed as long as you don't take them too seriously. So again, thank you guys for watching. My name is Stacia, and this is my little corner of the internet where I just like to talk about movies. I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers, so if you enjoyed this, help me out and subscribe to the channel. Also, give it a thumbs up, share it with people, and leave a comment. I love when you guys leave comments because I love responding to them, and I love talking about movies with other people. But again, thank you for watching. See you next time.